Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast, the podcast and talk show where we have digital discussions in the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, sports, everything really. Depending on the guest, we talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on social media, you know me as PD Beats. And you'll recognize my guest from a lot of cool TV and a lot of cool films. Most notably, you know, his work as Wyatt in Heartland, and he was in The Silence, which can be seen on Netflix. We're with Dempsey Bryk. Dempsey, welcome to Popternative.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Yeah.
No problem. I will say the first guest to do the interview from his bathtub.
Yeah, of course. I wanted this to be like a clean interview, you know, like spiritually truthful. So, no, actually, it's just the only quiet place that I can get in this house, actually.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. I'm really excited to chat.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to see where this goes.
So whether, you know, people act, whether they write, whether they sing, they're all storytellers and performers. When did Dempsey Bryk decide that he wanted to be a storyteller?
That's interesting. That's a great question. I was playing sports most of my life, so I didn't act or do anything when I was young. I did a school play in my elementary school in grade 6, and it was like, by the way, it was like by far the most intense school play experience that I'm sure exists in the entire world. I had a teacher named Miss Van Slyke, and she was like super pro. And we were in grade 6, and we would have people like, it was crazy to think of it now, but there would be people like PAs, like production assistants, getting kids bagels and stuff. And these were just other kids. So that was my first, I thought I was a badass because I was in the play in grade 6. But that was my first time acting or anything. And then outside of that, I mean, I just played soccer and boxing up until I was like 18. And then I went to school at Western.
Yep.
And I did a couple of plays there, and then that was it. I sort of like very quickly decided that I needed to drop out of Western and run away to New York. And I actually ran away, like didn't tell anybody what I was doing, and I went and auditioned for a couple of theater schools and stuff like that. And then and that was it. That's how I got in.
It's cool that you brought up the play in school, because I remember I interview a lot of different people, and I interview pro wrestlers sometimes, and I interviewed RJ City from Toronto. He's a pro wrestler, and he said the best quote ever. He said, "Pro wrestling is like a violent 4th grade play."
Yeah. I mean, shit, we had some violence in our play too, so maybe.
Isn't that a funny quote though? It's pretty funny.
It is funny. It is. It seems intense though. It seems like I don't know, from what I've seen about wrestling, it feels like they're really going for it.
They're stunt men. It's stunts,
yeah,
right? I mean, that kind of narrative of it being fake, I feel like is totally diminished. Like, you talk to a lot of them right now. Obviously, like, it's not, you know, when a guy gets punched in the face, you know what I mean? They're doing it a certain way so that the pain's not going to be full out like a punch in the face, but there's definitely contact. But I like to see that the popularity of wrestling became big and the narrative of it being fake left a little bit, because there's this like stunt man, like on like movies that you've been on, right? Like The Silence, right, on Netflix, horror film with Stanley Tucci. There's some stunts in that movie, correct?
Hell yeah.
And there's some stunt men that did those stunts, correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's funny that you bring that up, actually, because the last thing that we shot, I won't spoil it too much, but I'm sure if at this point you haven't seen it, you're not going to see it anyway. But so the very last bit that I'm in, and I've got a weapon, a crossbow. And so this is the last thing that I shot, and I got on set, and everyone was so paranoid that I had a crossbow. So there was like multiple stunt people around me, you know, warning everybody like to not, and I didn't even have an arrow in it or anything. So they're very, very serious about, you know, not dying on set, which is good, but they're pretty intense. Like, I think the stuntmen they're cool. They're really cool people, because they kind of have this like they could just do so much stuff. Like, you ask, like, one time I saw a director ask a stunt guy, he's like, okay, so obviously you want to shoot this where you come out the window, you come flying out the car window. So we'll do that in post. And the stunt guy was like, no, I'll just do that. It's crazy. They're badass.
No, it's amazing. There's a lot of content right now that's being kind of consumed by millions of people right now because of the quarantine. There's a lot of things, and you were part of kind of one of those shows that continues to kind of have that nonstop popularity and fan base that I don't think is going anywhere, and that's Heartland. You played Wyatt in Heartland, and it's pretty crazy to see. I think it's like 13 seasons right now, and it's just a consistent kind of fan base and fandom of that show. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like by far the most that I ever get reached out to or anything like that is from people who've seen the show. And that is like the number one coolest thing about that show by far for me is just seeing people who actually, who actually care about it. Like it's crazy to be a part of a project that people actually care about deeply, and like like it brings, comfort to people or something. And that's really cool because that's the type of show that that's the type of experience I had with shows when I was young, watching like, Community and stuff like that. Like those are the shows I would go to, happy shows. It made me happy. And to think of like being part of a project that some people might, you know, derive some happiness from is really, really cool. It's kind of the coolest thing about it, I think.
Another show like that is The Office. Are you into The Office at all?
Yeah, dude, I've watched that like 3 times.
I had Melora Hardin who played Jan in The Office on my show.
I saw that. I know. I saw that. That's really cool.
And she talked about how there's no shelf life for shows like The Office. Like you can watch that like anytime, anytime basically.
Yeah, that's what's cool because you can kind of pick up like a show like The Office. You can pick up any episode. You don't need the context around it. So I feel like people can like just go through it like on Netflix or like, especially now because it's quarantine, and so we're just looking for content. We're just trying to like find something to do.
Absolutely. So I actually found you. We were introduced by Kevin Alves, who's in Lock and Key. And the one thing I really love about Kevin, and it's one thing it will kind of spawn a question for you, Dempsey, is what I like about Kevin is I've met a lot of people like him in the entertainment and acting world that you see it with when you talk to them or on social media. They're very like supportive of other fellow, actors and people in the entertainment industry. They're always giving back and they're always giving shout outs. You know what I mean? It's like there's no like competition. Everyone helps out everyone. And I feel like Kevin does a really good job at that. And there's a lot of other people like that as well. How important was that? Like, and did you see that in your career early on? The kind of help between a lot of, actors and people working on movies? Because a lot of people think, there's like the dog eat dog stigma attached to the industry, right? But I don't really see that. I see a lot of people supporting each other.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. I think it's kind of like, well, I was really, really, really lucky off the bat to find support from people. Like I had some really cool teachers who were awesome, and like I made some really good friends, which is kind of lucky also in the industry. I feel like there's two things about that. I feel like one is I think there's a lot of support that goes around, and I think some of it's genuine, and I think some of it's ingenuine. And I think you kind of have to develop like an ability to translate and to figure out what's genuine and what's just talk. Because kind of the main thing, like one of the main things that happens a lot in the entertainment industry, from my experience, is people talk a lot. They say a lot of things that some of it, like they make promises, empty promises. And a lot of people, and it's kind of seductive because I think a lot of people can be like, really positive and say kind of what you want to hear, and then you get a little seduced by that, and you don't know if it's valid or not. But with Kevin, like, and a lot of people that I've been lucky to know, is that below that is an actual genuine like altruism or something. Like they actually want to support people, and that's why you picked up on that so strongly, I think, because it's real. But so that's the thing is like sometimes people can say stuff that's like okay, for example, I'm sure you've experienced this where a lot of people like, I love your show, I'm really moved by your show, it means a lot to me. And I bet you can tell the people who who are genuine, because I'm sure there are a bunch of people who actually reach out and you're like, oh shit, that's impactful. And then there's some who are just saying what they should say.
And there's some people that you don't hear from for a long time.
Yeah.
That see you in the silence with Stanley Tucci.
And
they're like, I haven't spoken to you in a while. What's up?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
That happens.
Sure, it happens. Yeah, yeah.
um, it no, but it's funny. There's another Kevin, so that's Kevin Alves, but there's
Mhm.
Kevin L. Johnson, who's a good friend of mine from Ozark, plays Sam Dermody in Ozark. He's
Oh,
been on
cool,
Ozark since season 1. He
cool.
is like he has helped me so much in terms of connecting me to other people and like getting me people for my show. Like it's unbelievable to see the support. Like I've seen so much support and so much help from people that have been on my show, and that means the world to me, right? Like people saying like, you know what, like my friend who's in this show would probably be a cool guest for you. Let me reach out to that person without me kind of asking. Like I love that, you know what I mean? It makes me feel, it's so humbling. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right that makes it kind of attractive for other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really beautiful, and it sounds like you are really grateful for that too, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are kind of some projects that you haven't had to work, like haven't had the chance to work on, in terms of specific genres? Because I know you've worked on a horror movie. You don't watch horror that much. If people saw your live with Kevin, they'll know about that. But like, is there any kind of stuff that you kind of want to work on that you haven't had a chance to yet, Dempsey? Like genre
Yeah,
wise?
yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot recently. I want to work on something like Community, something like a sitcom. I mean, that sets a high bar, but I would love it to be like a sitcom that's really, really funny, and really well written. Because I've seen some of those bloopers, like the behind the scenes stuff, and I feel like that would just be a party. Like every day, you're just there with your friends. You're trying to make your friends laugh, and it's you're really providing sort of like some solace for people. Like I think that like comedies are of real benefit to our to people, to our society. So that would be one that I really want to do, like some kind of like sitcom or comedy or something.
Segueing to that question, I'm Canadian, born and raised in Canada. You're Canadian,
Mm-hmm.
born and raised in Canada, correct?
I was born in New York, actually. I was raised in Canada,
But
though.
you're raised in Canada, okay?
Yeah.
So you're from Canada,
Yeah.
okay? Um, the stigma of Canadian content, like TV shows, being not as good as, specifically comedy, not as good as US shows, I think is completely gone when you look at Kim's Convenience, Schitt's Creek, Working Moms, Letterkenny. These are all
Waterkenny. Oh
these
my
are all
god.
Canadian shows that got distribution in the US and globally and that are just absolutely slaying it in the game right now. And I feel like it's great to see that as a Canadian, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's super cool. So my dad's actually an actor, and so he's been acting my entire life, and it's been cool to see there's been a sort of shift in like, yeah, in content, in Canadian content, because he's always working in Canada, and I mean, and the States too, but yeah, totally is shifting now. I mean, Letterkenny's sick. Like that's one of those big ones that that's another one I would love to go for. It's
I've interviewed quite a few people from that show.
I saw that actually recently.
And the thing about those, like a lot of people on that show, they've messaged me about it. And they're like, man, it's like I'm not prepared for all the messages we get. You know what I mean? I'm not. This is not me. Like I'm not used to all these messages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see. Did you experience that a little bit? You mentioned it a little bit, but Heartland, it was like that for you a little bit too, right?
Yeah. The first time that I did, like the first episode I did, they posted something. I think the episode came out and they posted something on their Instagram page or something.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy. I had never experienced social media response like that, and to this day I haven't experienced any fans like the Heartland fans. Like to this day, by far the most interaction I get is with Heartland fans, and that's what's sick. I mean, that's just sick. That's the coolest thing. Like this
What was the last time you worked on Heartland?
last year, I think I worked on it last summer. It's kind of weird because oftentimes, so it's about 6 months in advance. I think you shoot
Yeah.
it about maybe 8 months, maybe. But so yeah, I shot it last summer, and I did. I think the last episode that I shot was with Alicia and Katem and stuff. So it was really cool because there was a bunch of us young people, and we could kind of like, I don't know, it was a really good time because everyone was young and it was like everyone's really cool.
And I believe Heartland is like it's on Netflix like worldwide. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, it's crazy to me. It's crazy how you just put something like, I love seeing that Working Moms, the Canadian show, is like number 3 on Netflix in the States right now. Like that made me so happy. Yeah, it's number 3 right now.
That's great. My friend's in that show. That's sick.
Yeah, it's Outer Banks. Like right now, it's Outer Banks Hollywood, the new Ryan Murphy show, which is excellent. I just watched that.
Okay.
It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. And then it's Working Moms. It's like 1, 2, 3. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool to see. Yeah.
Absolutely. You said you were working on some, like, there's some stuff you've been kind of working on. What specifically can we look out for that Dempsey Bryk is in the next couple of months or maybe next year?
Yeah, for sure. So the most recent one that I shot was a movie. It's called The Fight Machine, and it's about boxing. It's about, which is cool because I think I told you earlier, I grew up boxing. I was like competitive boxing, so it was cool to see. It was cool to be able to like meld those worlds. But yeah, so it's called The Fight Machine, and there's 2 storylines. One is this rich kid who's he kind of gets into bare knuckle boxing, so he can try to like find himself. And then I play a character who's been competitive boxing my entire life, and I just don't really love it. And so we clash in the end, or like near our storylines start to intersect.
Where people could be able to see this?
So I don't know. This is still, it's one of those things that doesn't have, like, it's an indie film, so it's not, there's no like set distribution thing yet. But I will keep people posted personally as I sort of start to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was sick though. It was one of those things, like, there was one experience. The first day that I shot it was really cool because, so in Toronto, there's this place called Cabbagetown Boxing Club, which is, so it's in Cabbagetown, and it's where my coach, Sammy Canarella, and then Davey Silverstein, these are like my 2 coaches. They sort of like mentored me when I was young. And so the first day that we shot actually happened to be where they trained whenever they were training there, and they got to come and they were in the film. So it was like really cool because you know, kind of mixed worlds. But yeah, those are dudes who, it's interesting. You were talking about like really supportive people in the industry, which is like the best, and it's, you know, super important. But then also to have people outside, like these are like 2 people who have taught me, you know, so much, and to have them be there was sick.
Absolutely. No, for sure, man. Well, Dempsey, thank you so much for coming on the show to chat a little bit, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, dude. Thanks for having me. This has been really fun, dude.
Absolutely. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
Instagram at Dempsey Bryk. That's
amazing. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for joining us from the bathtub.
Yeah, dude. The first interview. When I come back, I'll do it. Maybe it'll be the shower, or I'll be.
Yeah, you have to like up it next time.
Yeah. I'll one up this for sure.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is Dempsey Bryk and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.